One more voice I'd like to pull out from the audience again and saw across the way, President Saakashvili. President Იღებს mentioned the 2008 Georgia War. I think you are familiar with that. I wonder if you could give us your view of, do you recognize the state of affairs that Mr. Იღებს talked about?
Well, thank you. First of all, with all due respect to previous Ukrainian speaker, I have no respect for Ambassador Chizhov. He reminds me of a character from Dr. Strangelove, all those of you who remember that old movie about Cold War. And the reality is that back in 2008, we had exactly similar situation. We had unidentified troops that were clearly identifiable, and Matt Bryce here, he remembers that as Russian Special Forces, sitting on the hill around Skin Valley, shelling the peacekeepers, shelling peaceful population, killing Georgian officers. Several of them were killed, killing lots of peaceful civilians, blowing up villages. And after weeks of this campaign, Georgia reacted, and then many of the people said, well, Georgia attacked and Russia responded. And this narrative was itself shameful. I tried to alert the whole Western community. There were people who got it right. I remember Carl Bildt was there, and members were, he was the one of the many people, or Mike Turner, who understood what happened, or Dick Holbrook, who came and was sitting all the way on the roof of the main hotel there and talking to any television in the world to explain the truth, because they predicted it, and President Იღებს coming and standing with us at the moment when Putin basically managed to bomb the rally. But then the European Union brought together a commission, Taliamini Commission, and they had German legal experts on that commission that said, yes, this is true that Russian troops invaded Georgia prior to Georgians responded, but technically it was not an aggression. And so the whole thing was triggered by large-scale, by the Georgian action. And that's exactly the moment when the EU said, let's go to business back as usual. Now, the problem is that the same legal German expert came second day and said, by the way, we should recognize European Union independence of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Brilliant expert. This is this kind of people that were making EU policy, or absence, or covering up for absence of EU policy. But the problem with this, what happened there, is when we talk about Ukraine, you talk about energy. You know that, by the way, I don't know, Minister, whether you know, but Russia has just taken away the last Ukrainian hope for energy independence, shale gas. 80% of shale gas is in Crimea. We were talking about 50 to 60 billions. Russians know what they were grabbing. Russians knew exactly. It's like, energy-wise, for our region, it's like Iraq grabbing Kuwait. It's hugely energetically rich Crimea. And shale gas was, with shale gas, Russia was losing the main importer of Russian gas in Europe. And Europe has just lost, congratulations, one of the main potential suppliers of gas to Europe. It's not about Ukraine being independent, it's about what you lost. So what we are talking about here is that when we talk about interdependence now works only one way here. Because when you have electoral government on the one side that has to take care of corporations, that has to fight over every percent, and on the other side of the vote, and on the other side you have authorized, autocratic centralized government, they don't care about independence. They use independence as a weapon, interdependence as a weapon. And so the last thing I want to say, what can be done? Lots of things can be done besides, of course, helping the Ukrainian army. I think first of all, banking, and I agree with President Zolik, and that's my question is what he thinks about that, about further sanctions. And I mean, Putin's circle is very vulnerable because he wants to attack like Stalin, but live like Trump, Rockefeller, whoever. I mean, Buffett. Or in a luxury way. He is very vulnerable, and his circle is very vulnerable. But for that, you need to do real stuff. To go, first of all, after his personal money, which everybody knows where it is. Second, Russian currency reserves. And I don't know whether it's visible, but the Americans have done it after hostage crisis in Iran. If Russian currency reserves that are in euros and dollars, which is to say Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank have access to them and can block them, are frozen, not taken away, frozen for the moment until like Vladimir Putin is still around or still keeps his policy. For me, it's the same. Until this guy is around, he will keep this policy. Then, if it's doable. Otherwise, It took 6 years before, less than 6 years before Georgia and Crimea. I predicted, and many of you are here accurately, that the Crimea would be next. Now it's a safe bet. Moldovans would be the best next because there's a problem now in Gagauzia, but some others. But these periods when he strikes again will get shorter and shorter. Appeasement, that's the problem with appeasement. You can talk as much as you want, but you know, this thing is recorded, and you'll see in 1 or 2 years, even if this doesn't continue now, which might also happen, he strikes again, we might be just a little bit uncomfortable about what we were saying now, you know, Russia is a power, we should respect it. The problem is just go on over and over again. And by the way, Baltic countries, Narva. What if there is like uprising of Russian population of Narva? And then people say here, oh, is it Article 5 or not? Or is it really, did Estonians really provoke it or not? Well, but these are peaceful population. They want, maybe they want to be with Russia. What about Riga, Russian city? What about many other places? What, by the way, about Allah?
Let's not get into that red
I don't want to scare you. I know you are scared enough, President. But
no, President, I will just say, let's not get into that red herring. I really don't see Russians in Estonia going for free movement of labor to Siberia. I don't see them picking the ruble over the euro. You know, I don't see wanting to apply for visas that they won't get in the future to Russia. I mean, from Russia to Europe. I'm not worried, and let's not raise this red herring, please.
Okay, but excuse me, I know many Crimeans personally. These people either didn't want to be in Gulag. They live in a very sunshine place in Ukraine. The problem there is that there are lots of Russian speakers in Ukraine who want to be in Ukraine. Did anybody really ask them? Do you really think that this referendum was about asking them? Nobody asked them. There was a poll conducted prior to every event, and my Ukrainian friend knows it, where majority of Crimeans said they wanted to stay in Ukraine, or the biggest number. So it's not that they were asked. Russians never really ask. They ask the way how they used to ask Estonians before. So anyway, so that's my question is about currency reserves. What can be done about that?
Let me before I go back to the panel, because I'm very happy to spend the rest of the panel on Crimea. But let me ask the organizers to put up my last poll question, because it might give us a chance to talk about something else, but I'm certainly not obligated to do it. This is again trying to play on my first question, which is, what does Europe need to do in the near term to deal with its challenges? You know, number one is what you hear a lot of here in Brussels, which is further political integration on a European level here in Brussels. Two, and I think the foreign minister touched on this, the issue, do we just need stronger political leadership? Is the issue one of leadership rather than the policies? Number three is more an economic issue. This is the argument during the Eurozone crisis that in order for Europe to function better, we need some sort of mutualization of debt and fiscal transfers within the Eurozone. Or four, is it a much more a German policy, which is more fiscal discipline, structural reforms that produce economic